Hello, everyone. I'm here to talk about speed and fast feedback loops and why all of this entire conference matters if you're trying to build a high quality product. And maybe I can convince you to bring some magic back to software. Maybe you're already doing it. I'm Kenneth. I'm a software engineer at Linear. And when I was a kid, I had one of those beige boxes. Maybe some of you remember kind of first time you used a computer or first time you logged onto the internet. For me, that was like very magical experience. Just like the endless opportunities in there. Like it was kind of an invitation to create and build stuff, right? But I think somewhere along the way, that magic started to fade, at least for me. If you just look at the applications we're sometimes forced to use out there, like a lot of applications feels very heavy and transactional, and it kind of gets in the way instead of get out of it. It could be software you're using to report taxes, or like it could be software that you're using to enumerate whatever you're working on, like an issue and an issue tracker, and maybe you don't like to use that tool. Actually, at one point, I worked at a company where it was just like our engineering managers that updated our issues in our issue tracker because nobody wanted to use it. And then, like, what's the point of the tool anymore? Like, if the data in there is not valuable or like not accurate, so it's like there must be a better way, right? But of course, there's exceptions to this, and I think there's a lot of applications out there where quality is really, really nice and crafted by people that care. And those applications really stand out, I believe. And one example that I found many years ago was Linear. For me, like, this really struck a balance of something that got out of the way. It was nice to use as a developer. It was an issue tracker that I actually wanted to use. It's a bit more than that, also like a planning and project management tool for actually building software. It started 6 years ago by some founders like obsessed with quality and building something better and empowering product teams to do their best work and just give them a nice tool. But I think there was a back thought as well to build something that could foster and kind of inspire quality and inspire craftsmanship. Because really, if you can build a nice issue tracker, I think you can build anything. And the plan kind of worked. Now Linear is powering a lot of both like smaller startups, but also enterprises. Most of the AI companies use Linear. And it's kind of interesting, that journey, right, that we've been on. And I think the numbers, they speak for themselves. Like if you just look at teams that switch to Linear from other systems, like it's 2x the amount of issues created. And I don't think it's like 2x the amount of bugs. I hope not, but but at least then you could look at something like issue resolution time, which is really interesting. I mentioned before an issue tracker where I didn't update my own tickets, right? I wouldn't notice if a bug was assigned to me unless if somebody poked my shoulder. Now we see like 60% faster issue resolution time of like somebody opening a bug and closing it. And that matters for end users as well, right? So looking at this, I was like wondering, like, how is the magic sauce actually made? So I joined Linear a few years ago to kind of answer that question. And really what I found was, and now I'm gonna reveal it, sometimes magic is just somebody spending like more time than somebody reasonably would expect. This is a quote from Teller, and if you don't know, Teller is like an actual magician, not just a software engineer. But I think it's very true also when building software or products in general. Sometimes you just need to go the extra mile. Shipping a quality product isn't easy. It requires a lot of work. And one example of this, maybe you can see it, of actually going the extra mile was in the early days of Linear, the founders kind of realized that in order to build something truly great, they needed to kind of reinvent and rethink how client applications talk with servers. Back then, it wasn't really that common to build the architecture that they ended up with. They actually built like a sync engine, custom sync engine. Now it's a bit more common, and maybe the next talk we'll talk more about that. But yeah, to give this truly multiplayer offline experience whenever you do something in the application, that it's just instant and that it works offline and all of that. So first 6 months was just spent building this. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone, but maybe if you're in an established market like Linear was, maybe it's a good idea. I believe that like truly magical products is like a function of craft and taste and iterations. Like craft is building things well and with care, and taste is kind of knowing what good is, right? And iterations, that's like how you learn what works. For this talk, I will kind of focusing on the last part. How do we enable these fast iterations? So I think it all starts, you have some idea, right? You have something you wanna fix in your product or build or change. And usually what we like to do is like ship a first version as fast as possible. Personally, I might create a feature flag. I might get some initial feedback from my editor, from a fast linter, maybe from tests. And I'll get my local development environment up and running. At some point, I push those changes. I get additional feedback from CI. Maybe I'll share whatever I built with my colleagues, and I'll kind of get some feedback, right? So development experience is a big part of this, right? And I'll share it with some people, and kind of those insights that I gain when I share it with users as well will kind of fuel another iteration and another one and another one. And I really want to try very, very hard in this to not let anything stop me in this loop. And I guess that annoys my wife sometimes when I don't pick up the phone, but like really just trying to be in there, right? But like first, before we talk about kind of some of those tools that can enable that, I think we need to look at kind of foundation for being in an environment where you can do this. I think you need to kind of work or at a project or at a place that gives you trust and autonomy to do your best work and give you time to focus, like not have that many meetings. We barely have any, and have a leadership that actually cares about quality and about you doing your best work. What worked great for Linear was also having a very small and like talented team. So with that in place, let's look at developer experience. In Linear's case, just so you kind of understand the context of what I'm coming from, it's a mono repository, and I think for good reason. Like everybody's kind of encouraged to work on the entire thing. You can get the entire thing running by calling a shell script, and you're kind of set up, and you can run the entire stack locally there. It's just TypeScript. There's some native apps as well, but like most of it is just TypeScript. The client is React single page application. There's an Electron shell around it, and the backend is Node. So kind of we're all set up. We have this idea we want to build something, right? That kind of first feedback is usually linding that I at least get in my editor, maybe when you pre-commit. In Linear's code base, we have around 11,000 JavaScript, TypeScript files. And this is measured on my 2-year-old MacBook. So with ESLint, it takes around 3 minutes, like linding the entire thing. And a big part of this is kind of type-aware rules, so using the TypeScript ESLint kind of setup, right? And when you have something that's like 3 minutes, you don't want to do it locally, right? I don't want to run this, so I just push my changes and I hope it works. Maybe it breaks on CI, and then I need to fix it, and then my feedback loop is like worse than if I just ran this for 3 minutes. But yeah, I don't want anything to disrupt me in my loop, so I might just push it, right? But somebody comes in and disrupt this space here with Oxlint. If you don't enable like the type-aware rules, we're now down to 2 seconds for our entire code base, which is really impressive. And with the kind of the preview release of the leveraging the TypeScript Go compiler, that's the 18 seconds that we have here. One thing to note here is like Oxlint, the 2 seconds doesn't include everything as ESLint, as we just heard. So there's still rules that we're waiting to be ported over or porting, like definitely gonna check out the new experimental preview of actually being able to run some of those in Oxlint. But I think if you just look at those 18 seconds, I was like, is this fast enough? Like, can it be faster? And turns out we are not using isolated declarations, which we should, and it was kind of hidden in a backlog somewhere. So definitely something we're going to look into, because if we can get those 18 seconds down, our TypeScript compile time will also go down, which is one of our bottlenecks right now in our code base. But I think one thing that's even more important, or as important as speed, is like when we just tried out Oxlint, it had a lot better defaults. Like there was actually a ton of rules, even though we only added kind of the critical rules that showed challenges or problems in our code base. And the setup is like much less setup. Like in a mono repository, you might have different packages, and all of them, like ESLint config needs to point to a TS config, and like so much setup. So by just adopting Oxlint, it started linting tons of files that we never included in our ESLint setup. So that's kind of nice. And I think another important thing about this, which is that it enables experimentation. If something takes 2 seconds, I might just try adding a bunch of rules. So recently at Linear, we wanted to do like a push for performance. We were not really super happy about how the application performed. So every Wednesday, we kind of try to find some stuff in the application that is slow. And I thought like, hey, Oxlint has this performance category. Let me just try enabling, because I don't need to wait 3 minutes, right? I can just wait 2 seconds, and then it will show me stuff in the code base. And it did. It found a lot of stuff where we could actually optimize the code. And I added -- fix, and it fixed it, and I committed it. And yeah, that's just nice, right? That's the feedback loop you want from your tools. Next step on our journey, kind of, we have linted it, right? We now want to build it. So this is the Linear client. It has around 11,000 modules. So that includes like third-party dependencies, internal dependencies. The end result is around 21 megabytes of minified JavaScript and around 40 megabytes of WebAssembly. So that's kind of the size of the complexity. So not like biggest apps out there, but also not too trivial to bundle. Over the years, I've been working together with the V team and like in open source ways of figuring out like how can we improve this, and like learned about the React SWC instead of using Babel. So I think this was already pretty optimized, 46 seconds, and we were like okay happy about that. But as you know, Rolldown came around and we wanted to try it. So we tried it 3 times faster. That's really nice, right? And I checked in with Evan, and he was like not completely satisfied. He was like, it can be much faster, right? So we asked Voice0 to help out, and it turns out our use case of style components, and yes, we are migrating away eventually, but that was like a major bottleneck in our case. So now Ox has or OXC has native support for passing style components, and we're now down to 6 seconds on my machine to build a fully production version of Linear. And why is this valuable? Like, this is extremely valuable because now I never ran the production version locally. I just ran the development version. That was fine. But as I mentioned, like if you want to look at performance, for example, it's pretty nice doing a full production version of the application in 6 seconds at a watch mode in Vite. And now I can actually just do a change 6 seconds later. I have a full production version that I can optimize on. So that kind of changes how we develop. And it will have an effect on the application actually being faster. If we get into automated tests, kind of another feedback loop, we're using Vitest extensively. We are also still using Jest for API. We want to move that over, but we have a lot of custom setup. But we're really happy about the speed from Vitest, but also that we are kind of using the same tool chain in our code base. We have a bunch of unit and integration tests. But for end-to-end tests, this surprises people. We got by for 6 years without any of those. Sometimes we broke the application, we rolled back instantly, and that was not great, right? So it was something we wanted to tackle at some point. But I think a lot of us have been burned by really slow and unmaintainable test suites, end-to-end test suites in the past, and was once in a team like working in a code base where whenever you did like a foundational change which shouldn't have any effect on the UI, you might end up spending days updating mocks and intercepts, and it's just, then you stop doing those foundational changes in your code base, and that's even worse. So with that in mind, that kind of postponed us adding end-to-end tests. And now we have like a few truly end-to-end tests, just making sure that the application actually works. Also when adopting Rolldown, whenever there's a new beta release coming out, I really want to try it, and just to avoid me breaking linear, then we have these now. And they're really fast, like 10 seconds on CI, so it doesn't really slow down our release process. So I'm happy about that. We might have a few more in the future, but not a lot. And there's no intercepts, there's nothing, it just runs against the production or preview environment. So preview environment, I assume a lot of people have that when they put up a PR that you can actually inspect whatever is being built. For us, what we do is just produce like an agnostic build using Vite, meaning it doesn't have any environment-specific stuff. It's just bundled SPA, and then we kind of have the same serving infrastructure for our previews and also for the production application. So what that looks like in practice is just you can visit linear on a specific pull request, right? And that application now boots up. Might notice here on the bottom that we have a little thing. I'm not sure if anybody's using linear here, but in the bottom we have kind of a developer toolbar that is only internal for us. But I'm showing it here because that's another part of kind of providing these fast feedback loops to build internal tools. And this can be anything, right? It can be frames per seconds. It can be specific stuff in our sync engine where we actually want to introduce latency or like have some specific configurations. Or it could be switching like the release channel, so I can now see how is the application looking for public users or beta users or internal. So I think it's worth taking a step back, right? Looking at your feedback loops and what is kind of holding them back in this loop here. And then like when a human puts up a PR or when an AI agent puts up a PR, like how do you validate those changes? Like, do you need to go in there? Do you need to clone the branch? Maybe you should invest in better previews. Or maybe you're spending too much time kind of validating manual changes. Maybe time to write some end-to-end tests, or maybe you have too many of them. Like, kind of figure out all of this. And I think it's worth realizing here, like this loop here matches like an agentic loop. So if you make it fast for humans, you'll also make it a lot faster for robots. If it can use linding very fast, then that's really nice. Actually, recently Claude complained that the TypeScript compiler in linear was too slow, so it didn't want to use it. So, got to fix that. But it's not all fine and glory in our end, right? We have a few challenges. I'm just going to mention it here because maybe some of you can relate. We have a ton of circular dependencies. Some of it is kind of caused by some third-party dependencies that we use, like TypeORM, the way you kind of define dependencies. Some of it is self-inflicted, also due to our sync engine and how we kind of require things. We need to look into that because that's a challenge, big challenge for hot module replacement, where you can like change code and you can see it immediately. That's kind of the best feedback loop you can get right. So we need to fix that. So for parts of the code base, hot module replacement will not work. And then we'll actually resort to like a full reload of the entire application where you would lose state, which is not great. Circular dependencies is also an issue for, we want to bundle our API servers. So currently we just compile all the files, and in production that's pretty slow. So we'd like to look into bundling and have been experimenting a bit using Rolldown for that. I was kind of talking a bit about this, like part of the cool stuff about Vite was the unbundled dev server in the beginning, especially for a small project. It's super fast and nice. In our case, it's not working that well for us. Like in production, like reloading linear is like less than a second, hopefully a lot less. But in development, if you just reload the application until everything is there, it takes around 6 seconds, which isn't great, especially when HMR is not working that well for us. And of course, it does like a ton of network requests for all of those modules that we have. But roll down full bundle mode is coming. I hope it'll be live soon, maybe tomorrow. Let's see. I don't know, but it would be cool. We're really looking forward to that. So you can get more into like a production environment, but still have kind of the benefits of your local development setup. So you're like, yeah, you're still not convinced. I haven't convinced you, apparently. But I think when feedback is slow, like it just stops your creativity, right? And if it's instant, like your ideas will just flow. You'll try new things. One of my all-time favorite conference talks is this one, Inventing on Principles by Brett Victor from 2012. I can really recommend that one. Basically about how to live your life by principles. It's an amazing talk. But I think one of his core beliefs in that one is that ideas are precious and creators kind of need that immediate connection with what they're creating. Because otherwise, many great ideas and inventions will not kind of emerge. And I think that's very true. And he has some amazing examples on in this talk, and I'm just going to show one of them, kind of building this Mario kind of game, but he's also building his own custom editor and has like time travel debugging before that even was a thing that we had in the tools we were using. And of course also like hot module replacement, and he can just change a variable by hovering over it and figuring out like what's the right parameter for this little Mario thing to jump into that area, right? And once you have a tool that works really nice for you, you want to use it, right? And you want to experiment with it, and suddenly you figure out that you can change some parameters, and you've invented a whole new game, or done like, yeah, build something truly great. So let's close the loop here. Some of the points I want you to take away from this is sometimes you just need to go the extra mile, build something truly great that you're proud of, and it will take a while. But I think it's important to give people the tools out there and the products out there that they actually deserve. And in order to get there, you need to optimize your feedback loops to provide that immediate connection with whatever you're creating. And hopefully that can help bring some magic back to software. Please take Linear for a spin if you haven't tried it. We think it's pretty great. Of course, there's a lot of things we want to improve. So yeah, we also have some open positions for that. Thank you all and have a great conference.